Hello and welcome to Trailblazers. My guest today is the eminent photographer Raghu Rai, who has set inspiring standards for photographers across generations. Whether it is the sheer artistry of his compositions or whether it is the ability that he has of capturing the mystery of a face or the magic of the moment, Raghu Rai's photographs have an individuality that have raised the bar. It's a pleasure to be here, Mr. Rai, in your house in Mehrauli, in Delhi. Most of your work is on India and around India. So when you started as a photographer, your career as a photographer, what was it like in the arena of photography? This is going back to the mid-60s.
Yeah, mid-60s and early 70s. Basically, after a few months in photography, taking street pictures and learning a bit about life, I joined the Hindustan Times for a year, and then I shifted over to the Statesman as their chief photographer. At that time, Statesman was very prestigious, important paper, and basically my life started with photojournalism, I can say. Photojournalism, we had fewer photographers, and because at that time there was no terrorism or anything, so the access to be close to the Prime Minister or ministers or dignitaries was not a big issue.
Right. Okay.
And the accessibility was so good and so close that it gave us, they say, if you are not close enough, your photograph is not good enough. So that intimacy, that closeness, gave us the privilege of capturing intense and close moments in the lives of these politicians, prime ministers, or big artists. And then you see now today's world is so different that because of terrorism you are kept 100 feet, 200 feet away.
Right.
It's not the same thing anymore.
But what about the equipment that you had to photograph?
Yes, I must say, well, some people are nostalgic about the fact, oh, film days were good, but I don't believe in nostalgic nonsense. You see, because that was technology which had its limitation. Digital technology with new cameras with 24 megapixels and 36 megapixels, the access and freedom it gives you is so amazing. And today the market is open and every lens, every camera is available off the shelf.
Right.
So, there is no problem about picking up any lens, any camera. And in fact, it has become so easy for anybody to become a photographer.
Well, given the present scenario, with mobile phones doubling up as cameras and Instagram and, like you said, digital photography, which covers all of this, and the hundreds of television channels, where do you see photojournalism poised? I mean, also given the fact that print journalism is shrinking. So as a photojournalist, what do you think is the arena?
I won't accept that print journalism is shrinking. There are more magazines today, and all those old papers, newspapers have still survived the test of time. Because let me tell you one thing very clearly. I remember, when, I had worked with India Today for 10 years, and when I left India Today, once I met Arun Puri in a party, and I asked him, what are you doing these days? He says, oh, well, print media is not the same anymore, I think it's time for electronic media, we are starting channels. And I told him, I said, no matter what channels you start, you see, a well-produced magazine, a well-researched story, and a photograph which reflects the energy and the spirit of the story, people would love to hold it in their hands, go through the story, read it, look at the photograph and preserve it. Because television screen is a flickering screen. The images come and disappear. For sure, that the instant it's happening is being telecast. But that flickering screen doesn't give you the privilege to hold on to the moment that you think was so precious and so potent.
Yeah.
And the details inside, are lost because everything is moving so fast. So, as far as I'm concerned, I don't think, that print media will disappear because television channels and so many channels and 24/7 is a sickening affair, and they keep repeating the news.
Okay, how would you say has been the difference between working for a photo agency like the one that you worked for, that is Magnum, which Henri Cartier-Bresson helped set up, and working for a mainstream newspaper/magazine in India?
Well, for 10 long years, I was nominated to Magnum way back in 71, but I started working with them from 77, 78. And then I joined in India Today in 81, 82 as their picture editor, and I was very intensely involved in doing important stories and essays and, But I was shooting for Magnum Photos also, so my emphasis was the magazine that I'm working for in my own country, because my own country and my own audience is more important to me than the rest of the world. So I made sure that I had taken out the best pictures for my magazine that I'm working for, and once I printed that, then the whole material flies to Paris or New York for Magnum Photos to distribute it. So it was not a difficult arrangement, and imagine in today's technology, sitting at the situation, you can email your photos directly to anywhere in the world. So, it hasn't been a problematic thing, but responsibility was a little greater than being just working for domestic.
Were you given a brief, say in India Today versus a brief at Magnum as to how you would?
No, you see, I have been telling youngsters also, listen to all the brief very carefully.
But do what you want to do.
But once you are walk into a situation, you forget about the brief.
Right.
Because some residue of that brief will be there in you. Because creativity lives beyond briefs. Creativity lives beyond concepts and ideas. Creativity lives beyond philosophies.
Right.
Because philosophies are born later on. First, it's a moment of interacting, understanding, those moments of revelations when they come and you capture them, and after you capture them and then you look at them and you say, oh my God, this is what it was. So the immediacy of it, which unfortunately magazines have lost it completely, because they tend to print more of studied, structured, constructed photographs, portraits of people, and their emphasis has become on these things, rather than the immediacy of the news and the great news events. And even if they are carrying any news pictures in these magazines, they are from other news agencies. Their own photographers, either they don't have enough photographers, I don't know about that, or they are not good enough that they are using agency photographs on big news events. Even when tsunami came, you saw most magazines in India, they were using pictures from agencies, and their own photographers hadn't done anything about it. So, it's becoming a hodgepodge, because they themselves are lost between electronic and print media.
About your choice of photographing in black and white and color, I'd like you to talk about that. What is it that decides?
Now, color versus black and white is very simple. Actually today, digital cameras, you put your camera on autofocus, auto exposure and auto color balance. It takes flawlessly well exposed color photograph. Everybody thinks they've become a photographer. Very good. But having said that, color, we see things, we see life in color, but in any given situation, if a situation is very sad and serious, and if there are people sitting wearing red and yellow and green like yours or something as bright, and the mood is sad, and those colors, first they have physical presence. Some colors attract your eyes more than other colors. Then each color has its emotional appeal, and that may not blend with the spirit of the situation. So the moment you put a black and white filter on life, it silences the noise of all colors. So it becomes very easy that even for the people, the viewers, it's easier to respond to a black and white photograph than color. Because then you see the content, you see the emotions, you see the feeling, and you say, yes, nice. But when it's a color photograph, then it's a mixture of emotions, feelings, colors.
Because there's too many things to distract.
Too many things, they distract you. And also, let me tell you that color photography is far more difficult to achieve a great image, because you can't, we say we photograph the reality. The reality has all kinds of things happening and colors and everything, and you can't change the color unlike a painter who can paint the sky green and can paint your face red, and nobody will question him because he's an artist. But we can't change the color. So you see, very few situations offer you an image that blends in terms of color quality, in terms of their emotional feelings, and in terms of the overall strength of the image. But black and white becomes far more easier.
How do you achieve this sense of timelessness in your images? You just talked about the fact that yesterday's news and yesterday's photograph is junked, but your images have remained. So how do you achieve that? It's difficult for you to explain, I suppose, very systematic.
No, it's not difficult, because you see, every human body runs on current, human energy. This light, these fans, they run on current. Urja, Shakti. Shakti we all have. And that Shakti comes from what? From our expressions, from our emotions, from our feelings. I say, no, somebody says, looks at you and, well, who's been very, fond of you and says, I love you. Somebody else says, I love you. You see, now see the difference between I love you, I love you. The moment I move and put my emotion, that is current. And that current, when you capture that current and that energy in a given space and people, each time you'll see that will hold you. It's there. But if it's plain simple love you, and you glance through it and you disappear, theek hai bhai, ho gaya baat. But so it is that spirit, that energy, that instinctive energy has to be captured instinctively, that can live for itself and survive the test of time, because that moment captured has the current of its own kind.
So a follow-up to this point that you talked about, the current, I wanted you to talk about the distinction between organized photography and the spontaneous.
No, you see, there is very fashionable stuff these days happening, conceptual photography, where they organize things and they put together things. Basically, I've got nothing against anything. People could be doing anything what they want to do. For me, basically, it's the instinctive and candid response to given situations, which brings out the essence and power, which adds power into the image. But finally, at the end of the day, if you constructed a situation and you have the ability, like filmmakers, they construct every shot, every sequence. Some do it better than others.
Right.
And people like Satyajit Ray, they did it in such a way that you felt you were living and experiencing those moments yourself.
Right.
So, you see, you can't, in creativity, you can't draw a line and you can't set rules. And like Henri Cartier-Bresson, the great guy, he used to talk about the decisive moment.
Yes.
But one of his very favorite and famous picture is where he made this man jump several times to capture the resonance of the poster, a ballet dancer in the background, and this man jumping a puddle of water. And finally he got the picture he thought he had visualized. So what about that? So there is no end to these things, if your image works by itself, for itself.
So, how would you refer to honesty in this? Honesty of an image?
Honesty, it doesn't become dishonest because now, like for instance, same situation, the poster of a ballet dancer on the wall and the puddle, and this man must have jumped and he must have visualized that and missed it. So he must have requested this guy to please do it again. So the honesty of experience is there, Honesty doesn't mean in literal things,
Right.
It's the experience of it that has stayed in his mind and he wants to recreate it. So what is cinema?
You've used backdrops for as props, shall we call them props, or they're just backdrops?
No, because you see, doing portraits is in painting, in photography, is the most important and ancient aspect of any art form. And people, when photography started, they will put a backdrop, make person sit in front of it and take pictures and make them sit in a certain style and certain pose and have a backdrop, which I thought was very interesting idea. But then over so many decades, so many photographers have done so many good portraits. And here my idea was that I put a backdrop in a landscape, and I also include extra space to the left and the right of the frame, because the life is still going on.
Right.
And I'm doing it not in a studio, I'm doing it in an open landscape or a cityscape. So what I wanted to capture was little more than just portrait of people plus the energy around it and the spirit of the place. So that I have done, and which people loved, but I find it very cumbersome to organize, to construct, and then wait for the right moment. Oh, breathlessness.
So, how long would it approximately take on an average?
Maybe one photograph to capture one situation, one set of people, it will take me half a day.
Oh my God.
And I am a man always in a hurry, and I'm an impatient man, and so I thought it's not my cup of tea. I gave it up. People loved it, and the images look very strong. But then, I can't do it.
Taken some wonderful pictures of Indira Gandhi and Mother Teresa. What were they like as subjects to photograph?
Both were great ladies in their own rights. One who was mother to all of us, and we love our mother, don't we? So she was a loving mother, and Indira Gandhi was a very shrewd, alert, powerful woman as a politician, because after Indira Gandhi we haven't had that kind of a prime minister who will make a difference. Except let's see what Modi has to do. But Indira Gandhi, I must say, she had great love for art and culture. But then in her later years, she became very insecure and tough. But Mother Teresa was somebody very special to me. Each time you met her, she will look into you and she will talk to you. So you had to stay very focused, and committed. Otherwise, you won't get permission to do anything over there. And she was not fond of photographers and writers walking around and taking pictures. But if you were as compassionate and committed to what you want to do, and this is what I learned from Mother Teresa, that whatever you do, unless your heart and soul is into it, you're no good, you know.
So any personal anecdotes while shooting her that you could think of?
Oh yes, you know, when first trip, I was there for 3-4 days with her. So first day I took some pictures very slowly. Second day I went click, click, click. She didn't like the idea. She says, how many more pictures will you take? You know, I mean, it was a very pointed, tough question. You know, and you feel, oh God. So I said, Mother, how many times and for how many years you've been praying? I said, Mother, this is my way of praying. She says, all right.
Oh.
So this is how you had to meet her. So there are so many stories, you know, where she transformed my life, my moments, and my ability to respond to things, you know.
So did you ever have to make her come into a particular situation
No.
before you made?
No. Because she was such a spiritual, powerful lady. You can ask, you know, a politician or a film star or a, you know, an artist to walk into this or sit like that, but not to somebody like Mother.
Is that the same way you followed Indira Gandhi, or how was that?
Also Indira Gandhi, because she was the Prime Minister, you couldn't dictate her that please don't sit here or look here or look there.
Yeah.
So you had to, you see, precisely that's the approach I have finally acquired, that try to get as candid as you can in any given situation, so that you are not planning or constructing situations, and those situations speak to you directly with the power that comes through the expression in daily life. And that's what is so magical about doing this kind of photography. Because some people tend to make arty pictures, very slow speed photographs. Some people are doing, you know, there is a fashion these days, you know, doing fine art photography. What is that rubbish? You know, taking pictures of walls, taking pictures of broken junkyard, taking pictures of textures and colors. This is all physicality of things, and they call it fine art photography. So, you know, there is all kinds.
So what would you call fine art photography?
Fine art photography, you know, and art photography, when your expression, your understanding, your intuitive response is at zero. And it speaks things in silence, is fine art photography, not forms, textures and colors and physicality of things, you know. So all these things are there, because also India is waking up to photography now. So there is fine art photography, there is archival photographs we've discovered. Well, you see, there was a photographer who used to say, every picture that I take has a story. Sure, every picture has something. But is this story worth sharing, worth telling? You know, is the question.
Yeah.
So archival work, you know, if they were just news photographs or a straight, simple documentation, it doesn't capture the magic of the moment, has no value to me, you know.
How do you choose your subjects?
Well, there are two ways of doing it. One is when you have a specific assignment, then you walk into those situations and people, and this is how you choose your subject.
Yeah.
But when I'm shooting for myself as a creative individual, I just make myself available mentally, physically and spiritually. I walk into situations and they nudge me. They say, hey, where are you going? In the sense that there are moments in life, you know, which are so potent, so wonderful, and they say, hey, you know.
Which is one such situation?
Many such situations.
Okay, tell us one.
No, many such situations, you know. My moments from daily life are like this, you know. And that's why because they have their own energy and their own, you know, instinctive value, that's why they stay alive for themselves, you know. And that is so magical. देखिए, जब सालों के बाद जो है, तपस्या के बाद जो है, संगीतकार गाता नहीं है, वो मुंह खोलता है, वो बात करता है और संगीत आता है. तो ऐसा होना चाहिए ना प्रोसेस. कि हर बार अगर आप effortful हैं, you are trying to do things is okay, you know, in the beginning, early years, you know, in your 20s and 30s and 40s, but later it must flow out and flow in.
You've got some 40 odd books to your credit, and I'm told that you edit them and you design them, and if you have your way, you even see the printing of those
Absolutely.
books.
Yeah.
So what has been that experience like?
Great, that's the most fulfilling experience, because then you are the photographer who's done the work over a period of time, and you sit and edit, and you are the one who's experienced those moments and situations, and how the whole story has evolved in front of you. And when you edit and when you put it together and design it, then it is a complete affair that takes its shape and expression right in front of you in physical form. And there can't be more satisfying experience for a photographer.
Okay, so your books are rival to your photographs, or how would you put it that way?
No. All that is precious to me that I have photographed gets into the shape of a book form. And I think that's the best I can do for just now. You know.
Any message you have to young upcoming photographers?
Yeah, sure. Because in all these 45 years or 50 years almost, what I have learned, I like to share that it's not about just photography, it's about life. That must enrich your life with little experience. Understand them like an awakened human being, and then try to capture those moments and those energies. And please do not take all those good pictures which are stored here.
Meaning?
You see, God has been installing world's biggest computer in each one of us. And this computer can have the largest memory in this world. But what is very negative about this computer, which is anti-creativity, which is it is a storehouse of ideas, visuals, memories, and things. So how do you work in a situation? Through these memories and ideas. How do you take a picture? Go to a situation, you see a situation, and it resembles the picture that you've seen. It was so good. Take it. No. Don't take all those good pictures which are stored here. Then only nature will offer you something different.
How do you spend your time at home?
Well, I have a loving wife, I have got my children and grandchildren, and basically, I listen to a lot of music. In the morning when I wake up, I turn on the classical music, I have my cup of tea, then I do my yoga, and then get ready to go to the office. And actually, my office and Meeta, my wife's office, is the same. Okay. So we work from the same space and share a lot.
Okay.
And children turn up as and when they want to, have little love and tenderness or little game they want to play with you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Rai.
Thank you.
And may you always remain inquisitive and restless.
Yeah, that I can't help you.
We are now in Raghu Rai's spacious office, which he shares with his architect wife Gurmeet.
He's a very down-to-earth person, and he carries no airs. So what I see him, the way he deals with the world, or whether and the way he deals with everybody in his close environment, there's no difference. So I would imagine that if he had a different acquired persona in public, and then would come in and so it's very transparent with him. He's right there the way he is consistently. So it never occurs. In fact, even when I got to know him 25 years ago, in fact 28 years ago, He was the same person. So it never even occurred to me that he was a person of eminence of some sort, you know. I'm an architect by training and I do preservation of monuments. And that deals with people and places and spaces and the cultural setting. And Raghu engages with the same kind of thing. So we tend to travel together, he comes to my sites and so on and so forth. But, you know, it's like, it's the commonality is in the language, the way we deal with our you know, areas of work. It's not so much that we have to work on a project to share. So we did, like for instance, I was working on the Golden Temple, and that's a very, very important site for him as well. So we'll soon come out with a book, but we don't impose our point of view, or there's a commonality in our language, the way we deal with our work and the kind of space that we work together on. I got to know him when I was all of 20, and we got married when I was 23. And as far as adjustments are concerned, I would say that, you know, he's literally protected my life very, very closely. So I've been kind of like in a cotton kind of, you know, that kind of protection, which I didn't realize I was being so protected. But in spite, with all that protection that I got, I at no point was overwhelmed or intimidated that I had to behave in a particular way, or I could do this and not do that. Mm-hmm. So I negotiated, navigated my life the way the choices I made. What irritates me, I think it's also, I think a gender thing probably. I would like to generalize it there, because I think as women we tend to also multitask, which men don't. And he as an artist completely does not. And you can keep getting irritated, he won't even notice that you're getting irritated. You know, that's the interesting part. So you could be doing shadow boxing and then you kind of step back, you know. That's something about him as a person, as maybe a person, that makes him a very good artist, I guess, also. Because he doesn't pick up the negativity. He kind of responds to life the way life comes. And that's about it. The point was, we had to be together, and the only way to be together was to get married, you know. We weren't complicating it. Neither he complicated it more than that, nor did I, you know.
Simple. बहुत लड़ाकी है, सरदारनी है ना. But then, you know, it is like fireworks in a minute, and the next moment, you know, again she'll look for a space to get into your heart, you know. So you say, never mind, yaar.